Now, do you plan to do some screen sharing?
If I can,
Go ahead.
I'll leave it up to my technical skills here. Let's see how it works.
Okay. John, as I mentioned earlier, is going to talk about solar classes. And
Yay.
hey,
You're seeing what I'm seeing, everything's going well.
it worked.
Enable editing. Do I have to do that? I can't remember. Stopped as shared window is closed. That doesn't help. Okay.
Lost it.
I'll try that again. You know, you think having done this probably 100 times to get good at
it was up. There it goes.
Yeah.
Now hit the
covers
slideshow.
the thing where it says slideshow. So okay.
Yes, hit that, and then from beginning. There you go.
God, yes. Could you please,
Looking good.
tech guy? Okay. I just want to talk a little bit about teaching. I teach open classes that are about solar power and an introduction to solar power in Southeast Michigan. Am I on? I heard a little noise. Anyway, so I'm a real solar enthusiast. I've been working in the field since '95, and I've been a speaker at different conferences and things since about 1990. And I decided to put two of my skills together and start teaching open, free classes about solar power, just an introduction to solar, because I think solar is cool. And I think that other people think solar is cool if they have a chance to learn a little bit more about it. So I have a class. It's a 2-hour class right now for just open to the public. It is a class that's guaranteed to bore half of you, this group probably more. And on the other hand, it's a little over the head of, parts of the class are over the head of the average person, and part of the class is boring to a person who knows solar well. It's a perfect blend of both. Anyway, just tell you a little bit about the class. It covers why one might want to get solar, sort of the basic background. What does it cost? What's it like to hire a contractor? That sort of thing. And so I go through the basic advantages of solar, things you all know very well, I'm sure. I offer the class right now about once a month now that we're getting out of the COVID era. Beforehand, I'd offered it a little less than that, and then during COVID, not at all. I cover the hardware that goes into a solar power system for your house. I don't cover do-it-yourself solar, which would be a fun class to teach, but that's a completely separate topic. I'm intrigued by that myself. Most of the pictures, by the way, of people that are installing solar, I use from my work in Latin America. Most of my solar work has been in Latin America. And I just don't want people to ask me, okay, who is your solar installer? I want to be neutral on who solar installers are, so that I don't want to prejudice people, just say, hey, yeah, use the guy I used. I think that I want to enhance the business of solar in the state of Michigan. The idea is the more people that get solar, the better the world is. That's my job, is to help create more people getting solar power. I show all of my Latin American teams working on solar rather than the local ones, and then nobody bothers me about who I hire. I point people towards Project Sunroof. It's a great start. People feel very comforted by the fact that you can find your home and see the roof and get some information from that. I tell them, it is just a point of beginning. But this is, I get feedback on this, and this is a very good place to start for people. They feel very positively about it. So they get this sort of data if you haven't seen it, and I'm sure everybody's fussed around with this solar roof application from Google. The pin there is on my house. And you'll notice my house does have a pretty good solar exposure. You know, the brighter the color, the better the solar is for you. And I did get solar power installed. I'd been living half the year in Latin America, and it just wasn't making sense until recently to get solar. So anyway, I use that as an example. And then I also tell people, you know, buy a kilowatt or borrow mine. I have 4 of them. Go around your house and analyze your loads first. You know, figure out whether or not it makes sense to dump your old hot water heater. That's a funny term, hot water heater. It's a water heater. And your refrigerator. You know, check those appliances out. So I go through the whole idea that it's less expensive to make your house energy efficient than it is to simply try to cover all the loads of an inefficient house with solar power. And then I talk about, okay, Zillow research shows that increased property value with solar installation. Homes with solar panels sell for a bit more than homes without. So it's like, if you make an investment in solar, it's not like you're throwing your money away and then trying to live off of the interest, or, you know, locking it away for good and then living off the interest. Is that you get your money back. You know, for some, your house becomes more valuable, to the point where it actually becomes more. You can actually increase the value of your house more than the amount of money you spend by putting solar on your house. That's a possibility. Doesn't happen in all cases, but it's a possibility. I also teach classes with Family First Solar, which is a small solar outfit out of Ypsilanti for kids, ages 8 through 18. And it's a STEM-rich class. So this is, once again, introducing solar to people that might not actually get exposed to solar until later. So this is a solar and sustainability class. The guy on the right there is young and hip and a role model, and the guy on the left there is trying to back him up as best he can. The kids really relate to Kojo, and I'm an old guy. But I do talk about using a kilowatt, and in this class the kids learn about, it's a STEM class, so they learn about electricity and circuits and how to put in controls and circuits and that sort of thing. And then they build small scale solar systems. We actually do this with adults too, the solar classes. We actually, the long version of the class, we actually build a solar panel with a voltage controller and battery and standard outlet or light fixture. And then the kids get to go outside and they get to check the solar panel, and you get a 12-volt solar panel and you take it outside and it says 19 volts on it on a sunny day. And then the question is, why does it say 19 volts, 1 and 2? 19 volts will kill your battery, and therefore you need a voltage controller. And so we go through lessons like that. And okay, I'm already out of focus. These are old glasses, but this is an out of focus picture. But we thought that to teach the class to kids and also to older people. 2 of the people taking the class here are engineers already, and they enjoyed the class. They got something out of it. Here are, we teach the class in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Michigan, Detroit, and Highland Park. And that was it. I'm done. I'm going to try to unshare and answer questions. It's just, the idea is that there's classes, they're free, they're fun. And the idea is to make solar more possible for more people. Stop share. I am done. How's that, John? I stuck to 10 minutes. So questions? Okay, hands are going up. Who's the host now?
Muted, John.
I'm the host?
Charles, go ahead.
Oh, hey, John, Charles, Morris.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
Great. Question, can the trade your class for, let's say, laity or non-engineers, is that enough to get them to be of use to Guatemala in your work in Guatemala?
Interesting thing. And the interesting thing is that this class is actually almost exactly the same as what we teach in Guatemala. So we have a class that's open to the public that's about general solar power. And then we also, our primary class in Guatemala is the circuits and solar class, where we teach about electricity, circuits and solar power. And then we have them build their own small scale solar power systems. But oftentimes then they take those small scale solar power systems and go into the field and install them in a house that has no electricity. So
Well, question, could someone here be of use to the, I mean, someone who's not a professional installer be of use to your work in Guatemala at all? Would there be a place for them or not? Like someone like me.
yeah, come on down. No, honestly, we have volunteer trips. The volunteer trips to Guatemala, where we do teach solar and we offer 3 that are open to the public every year, and people come down. The cost of the trip helps cover the cost of materials that we use. So there's a price. It's interesting. We pick people up on a Saturday, we drop them off the following Sunday, and in between, we try not to overwork them.
So do you have to go on a roof?
Actually, you don't. Sometimes there's roofs that are kind of, dicey, and we don't let any volunteers on the roof. It just depends on which project we're working on.
Go ahead, Rob.
The roof anymore. My doctor told me I can't climb a ladder.
Okay, I shouldn't either. Rob, go ahead.
Sure. Well, first, I just wanted to thank you, John, for being such a great solar advocate and being there to teach people and share your knowledge of this. It's wonderful to see. I think especially, those youth classes are great. I've often thought I wish there were things like, when I was a kid that could have actually taught me about renewable energy. There just wasn't. And so I guess, I definitely would love to see classes like that expanded in different areas. I know there's only so much you can do, but that would be great to see all over the state. And then one of my questions too was if there is a website or a resource I can direct people to for these classes, whether they be in Ann Arbor, Ipsy, or anywhere else. I don't know if there's a good contact info or place I can send people.
I'm going to give you our long name of a website, and it will be up to date on this in a couple of weeks, because somehow it gets jet lagged between my ideas and when things go on the site. But it's AppTechDesign to apptechdesign.org. And
I'll toss that in the chat too, so then everybody can see that.
Oh yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Perfect.
He beats me to it.
Design.org. Great.
Yes, and we'll have more information about the classes on that, and I'll make that a priority. It does not cover the classes right now.
Okay.
This is something that we're just, suddenly everything's happening at Appropriate Technology Collaborative. We're just wildly busy, which is great, and this is part of it. And anyway, real popular classes.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And I don't know if I'd be happy to help give some insight into Dawn's question in the chat. On that.
Since you mentioned that, go ahead, Rob. There's a
okay. I just
question about the difference between a circus.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I know I just want to be helpful, and I'll mute myself and let other questions transpire here. But all I would say is for residential systems, until you get to really large systems that are really open and not shaded, like the service center, for instance, at Meridian, wide open, unshaded, over 100. If you're a residential system, so I'm guessing somewhere between 4 to say 12 kilowatts, maybe a little bigger, you really want to go with micros or optimizers. A string inverter system is unless they mean like a string, it's a strung optimizer system or something. But if it's a pure string, then that really is only appropriate for the larger scale projects, because you need that individual panel level production. If you have, say, a cloud rolls over, you don't want the entire string to now only produce as much as the lowest producing panel. It's really going to hamstring your production over time, and you won't get panel level monitoring, which is pretty cool that people like to have.
Yes.
I just be careful about a string inverter system unless you're talking about like a scaled project. And that's
Yeah. We cover that, as I say, we cover a lot of turf in a short period of time, but we do cover that idea in general, but that's something to really emphasize. And I like getting the data. I mean, I like being able to look at every solar panel and see what it's producing. And why is that one like 4 watts less than the one next to it? You know, and you go up on the roof and you realize it's dirtier.
Yeah, that's the, with today's technology, it's great because you can kind of see what each panel, like John is saying, is producing. You can have lots of data to look at. Go ahead, Mary, with your question.
Yeah, thanks. Hi. I'm just wondering, John, if you have done anything or know of any resources and related to like workforce development with solar in terms of like training installers.
I
know you mentioned your potential DIY class, but yeah, if there's any other resources.
Those are really different in my mind. The
Mhm.
DIY class is really for people who want to solder things if you get down to that level.
Right. Gotcha.
And workforce training, we're talking with some nonprofits in Detroit that do workforce training projects. It's complicated. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the kids and the clients that we like to work with, they need a fair amount of training to get to before they can be ready for workforce training. So we haven't got to the point where we're actually doing workforce training. I'd say that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, GLREA back in the day, early on, did a solar installer training. There really wasn't anybody else doing it. And then what happened was community colleges and actually International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers started incorporating solar systems in small wind systems in training. And so I think, and Rob can kind of confirm this or not, I think, when they're hiring people, the first question is do you like getting on a roof? Second question is, do you have any background, whatever it is? Because a lot of this is on the job training, I think, by folks like Rob. But there are programs, so people can get some training at community colleges,
Right.
the unions, but and there's some classes, yes, but it's kind of, I don't know if hit and miss is the right word. Mark, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've been, I was on the Energy Commission in Ann Arbor for 6 or 7 years, and we looked at this a lot. We tried some volunteer solar programs to put solar on public buildings and on firehouses and stuff. And what we're finding is that as the solar industry is maturing, that the unions are looking towards the solar industry as a place for expanding membership. That's a nice way of putting it, I guess. All electrical would have to have an electrician, certified licensed electrician show up, and they have to be certified and approved. But there are some communities where public money has been used to help underwrite the cost of the solar system, and building trades have showed up at the work site. And I've also complained to city councils and mayors and things about, supporting non-union jobs. Training is a critical thing. John's right, the community colleges, Oakland Community College, I think still has a program. Some union places have a program. But I think if you're looking at workforce development, in solar, you really probably should think about, differentiating between, the lower level sort of manual labor parts versus the higher level electrical connection parts and things like that, or looking at, working for companies that assemble solar panels, solar raw materials into panels, racking. There's lots of jobs, in this industry, and solar and stuff, and putting solar on the roof and hooking it up and turning it on is the most visible part of it, but industry that's worth exploring. But
Yeah, let me ask you, Rob. Hey, Rob, what has been your experience with
I
hiring?
think start with looking at what jobs are going to be unionized going forward, and I would talk to the unions as well, and the community colleges that have these kinds of programs now, and how they see the industry moving forward.
Hey, Rob, have you hired anybody that actually got training and do with respect to on the
Sure.
job?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little skeptical of those that come with maybe experience at other solar companies. It's very much dependent on which solar company it is, but you come with some bad habits, cutting corners, these things. I frankly prefer to bring somebody on that has construction experience, so then we can train them our method and our quality standard and make sure that we're setting the right habits right from the start. I'd rather have somebody that is, maybe not experienced, that comes with the right attitude and that comes with maybe some of that background in construction. And so then we can make sure that we're not carrying over any bad habits from, to be honest, some of the bigger, more maybe out of state based companies that, are more kind of like capturing a certain territory and moving on. So, the reputation doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and Rob, how do you differentiate the work that's done by electricians versus just installers?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, Mark was totally right. There is very much a difference between somebody who's moving block versus actually making your AC connection, which would need to be, a supervised apprentice program, future journeyman underneath the master electrician. So it is very much, there's kind of like electrical portion and then just like basic put it together, move the stuff around portion, fill the trench, so it's kind of a dual sort of aspect in that regard. I know there are some, like there's like LCC has like renewable energy course. It touches on some solar stuff. So it's out there. There's like national courses that you can do online that can give you some good basics as well. But I mean, at least in Michigan, I think a lot of the core training is going to happen at the actual company, versus maybe some of the basics you would bring from outside. Hopefully that helps to a little insight into
Those large fields full of solar power are done by IEEE, engineers, and the smaller systems. I don't know if any smaller system, the 12 kilowatt and under, 20 kilowatt maybe and under, needing to be a union job. Obviously you have to get inspected and have the building inspector sign off, and I think you need to have an engineer sign off on it for smaller scale solar power systems on your home, for example. But the large scale systems are obviously, we were looking into doing a pre-apprenticeship program, and even that, I mean, pre-apprenticeship program means they're prepared to become an apprentice, and the level of what you need to know to become an apprentice is really high. I don't know if I could walk in there and do it myself without.
You do need a building permit on the smaller systems, though.
electrical permit, interconnection application, so that there definitely are
Right.
hoops.